In today's column, I'm exploring climate change. I'm not exploring the physical details of climate change. Scientists are better placed to be doing this. I'm looking at what we can do to actually tackle this problem and why this wasn't tackled so far. And I think the economic success of a country is quite often underestimated by the political left. Only once people feel financially secure and stable, once they feel that they got the riches that they deserve, once they can feed their families and so on, only then do considerations about climate change actually matter. So therefore, suggesting policies that says, we completely stop in Australia to dig out fossil fuels, which would take a massive financial hit to the country, is probably going to be ultimately counterproductive because the economic success matters. There is, of course, an alternative solution that is pushed forward by the Norwegian government, for example. These folks use fossil fuels to become rich. They dig out oil out of offshore oil wells in the ocean, and then they put all this money into a sovereign wealth fund, and they really fund renewable energies and clean technology, electric vehicles with this fund. That's a smart approach, the Norwegian approach. There is no reason we couldn't do this in Australia. We could also be very pragmatic and continue digging out fossil fuels while completely and selling fossil fuels while completely recalibrating our economy, meaning we heavily invest into clean energies in Australia, become a net exporter of clean energy, become a net zero emission country quite quickly. That could be possible. This approach could be pushed, but there are problems with this. The conservatives don't like being spoken to in the ridiculing, shaming, moralizing ways that they are being approached to by the political left at the moment, for example. So that is hindering it. But how do those political perspectives, I'm talking about this more in the piece, but I also make a point about the generational perspective. At the moment, you have all the leadership positions in Australia, politically speaking, and many from a business perspective, taken over by Gen X, a small but very practical-minded generation that doesn't have climate change as their main goal. They will be open to very practical, hands-on solutions, but it is not their first point of call to think about climate change. This is why climate change in the 2020s, when leadership positions are held by Gen X, will be continuing to be a grassroots movement in Australia. In the 2030s, when millennials at scale take over leadership positions, then climate change will be tackled from the top. So that's the broad outline of my argument. Read about it more in the column, which is of course linked below.